Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I'm Shannon Bruess. I started out at Illinois State, and I got my undergrad in exercise science. And then I went back and got my master's in sport and exercise psychology. And another proud moment, I interned with the Cooper Aerobic Center. Are you familiar with? Yeah. So I interned with Dr. Cooper. And that was an amazing experience. And that actually brought me into wanting to do exercise psychology. But I also run a gym, and that's called Focus Fitness. And I am a professor and internship coordinator at McHenry County College.
Yeah, and that's
a lot of things. Yeah. Very busy.
So what is like a typical week at this stage of your life? Because like you've been in business how many years now?
We've been in business since 1992, actually. Okay. But I've been running things since 2019.
Gotcha.
So a typical week for me is usually I do most of my clients on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So the training and I do like a lot of my admin work and stuff on those days too. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I teach at the college, and then randomly throughout the week going and seeing different internship sites, connecting with potential internship advisors and stuff like that. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are busy because I also do clients in the evenings and stuff too. So
gotcha. So
teaching
in the morning, then you shoot over and coach in the evening.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. It's busy.
Yeah, sounds busy.
But a good kind of busy. I like being busy. If I'm not busy, I'm just going crazy. So I enjoy it.
But you get the weekends off?
Nope. Sundays I take off, but okay. On Saturdays I'm typically just doing gym stuff. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and earlier we were talking a little bit about the way you guys are set up at the gym. You guys go 30-minute classes, 30-minute sessions. Try to pack as much into those 30 minutes as possible. Keep people busy, moving, sweating.
Yes, absolutely. So we found in my research, I did experimentation on like the proper way or the best optimal way to develop a class, like a fitness class. And I figured just jump into the psychology.
I was going to ask about,
So part of my research, we researched the optimal state of motivation, which is a flow state. And I'm sure you've heard of that before. That's like where the whole going with the flow kind of comes into play. And so the whole idea of a flow state is like there's they did a lot of research with athletes, and that's how they figured out that this is a place that we need people to be motivationally in order to develop intrinsic motivation, which is the only type of motivation that you can develop that will help you continue doing something. Like it's like the purest form of motivation. You know, you have like extrinsic where you're doing something for a reward. You are doing something to avoid something else. You're doing it to appease somebody else. You know, there's all those are, I guess, tainted versions of motivation that are not lasting long. And intrinsic motivation is just self-driven, and it's doing the activity for the sake of the activity. And that tends to be what drives people to continue. And so the whole idea was to figure out how to apply that, how to facilitate that in exercise, because we want people to stay committed. And so we did some experiments in my graduate studies, and that flow state has like some criteria that you have to achieve in order to get into that. And so when they were studying athletes, they were finding that they were experiencing this part like during games usually, or during a meet or a match or something, where they kind of like check out, and it's like being in the zone. It's called usually that they refer to it as that, and it's like there's aspects of it like time dilation. So you can hear people, if they're describing that state, that it's like time flew by, or it like felt like it was slowing down, or like there was like at both at the same time.
Sure.
Like,
so when you say checking out, you mean more like autonomous. It's just
they're
things
just like
are just flowing.
Yes,
yeah, that's the flow.
Exactly, that's where it comes from. So they are just completely immersed in their activity, and everything else just kind of fades away. So it's like that's where the time dilation comes in. And then there's also things like they don't feel a sense of self-consciousness. They don't feel they feel competent. They feel like they are accomplishing something. And it's all this research that they've found is like there's like little spurts of that. And like, so we're trying to figure out how to make that last longer and how to actually facilitate it. So instead of just happening on it when you're in the middle of a game or, you know, something like that, like how do we get clients to experience flow during their workouts, and then they'll feel better and more likely to keep coming back.
Sure.
And so that's where we came into the half hours is that's it's really hard to maintain a flow state for longer than, you know, 10 minutes. But with the research that we've done, we found that like the best way to kind of keep flow going is like circuit training. And most of my background is in body image. And so that's where all of my research was directed. And that circuit training was like the best way to help people kind of escape their self-consciousness, and because they're so concentrated on the task at hand. And so with circuit training, you have like all of these tasks in like right out in front of them, and they are so concentrated on just finishing and getting it done that it doesn't feel like they're trudging through the workout. It doesn't feel like it's less likely that they'll get bored. It's less likely that they'll kind of start feeling bad about themselves or thinking about what they should be doing instead. You know, what can I be doing at home? They're really just in it. And for us, like the 30 minutes really works to help kind of facilitate that. And that's when at the end, people kind of like, when they're in the workout, they kind of zone in. And then it's so interesting to see, like when they're done, it's just like they like wake up and they're just like, oh, like, okay, we're done. Like, that's it. And, but they get the results that they're looking for. They feel like they can commit to time a little bit better because it's just a half hour. And they can get to the gym, work out, leave all within an hour. And that's been kind of the appeal to most people. But yeah, so answering that, but going into like the science behind it, it's been very interesting to see it play out.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. It is like, if you think about it, like 30 minutes is fairly short, so it's like, why couldn't I work out for 30 minutes? Like, I could commit 30 minutes, like, no problem.
Right. Exactly. Everyone finds 30 minutes in their day, and especially when they actually do the 30 minutes and it's just like, it's done already. It feels like, oh, okay, like I can, like the next time they're not dreading coming back, like, oh, I don't have enough time for this. It's last time I did it flew by, and I was tired and I worked hard, and there's some physiology behind it too. Just like the amount of muscle groups that we recruit at the same time. So they are getting the physical benefits of it and seeing physical results from just training the half hour. But our whole thing is like the motivational aspect too. So, but you get both. So it's more bang for your buck, I guess.
Sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. That's a different perspective. It's always good to get
Mm-hmm.
new perspective.
Definitely different.
We have like 60, 90-minute sessions, and some of the things that we've arrived at. So like typically in our warm-ups, we try to get people active, moving in a 5 to 10-minute window, like from the first get-go. So a lot of times we'll start with either like soft tissue, like quick foam rolling, like stuff that you're going to want to do walking in right off the street or first thing out of bed or after a long day of work, like some pleasurable, easy activities to just start moving around. And then we try to like slowly ramp it up and then ramp it back down. So
awesome.
we hack it in a little bit different way, but similar.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what do you find like most of the clients at the gym are looking for?
In terms of their goals?
Yeah.
So I'm again, my background in psychology, exercise psychology, whatever the client comes to us with as their goals, I always say is just their, I don't know what the word is, but it's more of like it's their superficial goal and it's their external goal. So most of the time people come in, they want to lose weight. And so I teach my trainers, and I also teach my students the same thing too, where it's not that first goal that they give you is not the real goal. There's more to it than that. And so if you just are addressing that first goal, you're doing yourself as the trainer and your client a disservice because you're not really getting to the root of that goal. So I'm going to get really cheesy and use a metaphor, I guess, but like it's like they give you the leaf of it and it's like a tree, and then you have to kind of dig, find the branch, go to the trunk, and find the root of exactly what they're looking for. And more often than not, people are looking for, as the root is to just be happy and have a happier life. And so it always kind of boils down to that. And so we usually will take the leaf and go into like, how will that make your life better? And then that tends to bring them a little bit deeper. And then you find out that, like, I'll go through an example. So like with the losing weight thing, we usually will respond to that with like, why is that your goal, or why is that important to you? And, like, oh, well, in high school I weighed this much and I felt really good about myself. And, and then we go into it a little bit further, like what's different now than when you were in high school. Oh, I've had kids, I have 2 jobs. Sure, yeah. And, and you go into a little bit deeper where they just are just looking to feel confident in themselves. And so that's where we tend to drive the program is looking for ways to make them empowered and to make them feel confident. And we talked a little bit about this with the different theories of motivation. And a lot of times almost all the time, it boils down to just 3 things that people are interested in. And it's relatedness, which is they want to feel like they're a part of something. Competence, which they feel like they feel confident in their ability to do something. Or autonomy, where they feel like they have some control. And so a lot of times when you hear someone has weight as their goal, it tends to boil down to they feel like they don't have control over their life, or they feel like things are getting out of control, like their job is stressful or this. And it's just so much easier to blame your body and say, I just want to lose weight because that's an easy fix, than like, my life feels like it's out of control. And so we like to find those root goals. But I mean, just like I'm sure you guys get too, where people come in, they want to lose weight, they want to look better. And it tends to be so much more than that. And once you're kind of, I really believe, and this is a lot to do with my background in body image, that if you take weight loss off the table, people are a lot more open about what they really want. And they are more motivated to keep training because and to keep trying to strive for this goal because it's more important to them. It kind of is more ingrained in them, instead of like weight loss where any day you could be like 3 pounds heavier, 5 pounds heavier, lighter, and it just is so unpredictable that people just get so discouraged so easily. Yeah. And so whenever we get that answer, that response, we try to kind of dig a little bit deeper, because that's always that like external, that superficial response. And
to your point too, the relatedness, so like digging a little bit deeper and finding out what is actually behind that goal makes you more relatable as a trainer. People feel like they have a teammate in the proposition, as opposed to I'm on an island over here trying to figure this out by myself. And
yeah, exactly. And that's like I'd like to tell my students that too, is if you need to show people that you care about them, because if you're going to be in this field, you have to care about people. This isn't a selfish field. It can be, as I'm sure we've seen. There's a lot of fitness professionals that kind of take that route. But if you really want to do well and you really want to make a difference, like, you have to care about the individual. And it's not as much as telling someone, I care about you. It's like showing them that you do. And that's where like those questions come in, and like that relatedness, where they feel like this person actually cares about me. And like they really want me to succeed. And, that whole thing where it's like, it's showing, not telling. It's when someone says, you can trust me. It's kind of like, that should go without saying, right? But no, now that you said that, I'm questioning that. It's the same thing. It's like, I really care about you. It's like, thank you, but it's your actions speak louder.
Definitely.
But yes, having someone in your corner is huge for most people.
So like you were saying, you have to like do it for the person. Is there any like breakthrough moments, like when you're teaching like aha stuff, like the students maybe went into class not understanding like what it's like to be a fitness professional, and then it's like this is kind of what it really is?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Especially when we talk about the psychology aspect of it, before, at MCC, I developed the exercise psychology course. And so it wasn't being offered before I started teaching there. And it started as an elective. And the students were having so many aha moments during that class that they actually petitioned isn't the right word, but like every student who took the class would go into our department head and being like, this needs to be required because now everything that I just learned or everything that I learned before this class, I'm questioning now because I'm looking at things differently. Mm-hmm. So it's the idea of trying to get students to have a different mindset before going in is really important. And so it was important to them too. They would go and just be like, this should be taught sooner because now everything that we go over is different. It hits different. And so that's my favorite class to teach because there's so much of that. Like the students are things that make sense. Like you explain it to someone, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like working out to your personality type, like that makes sense. But like actually seeing it play out and like looking at it at like a prescribing or an exercise prescription standpoint, it just like the lights turn on and they're just like, oh, that makes so much sense. And my favorite part is when they get that and I hear them like applying it. And so like when you were at our advisory committee meeting, we have a new class where they are working with mock clients and going through the motivational interview. And so they're learning to go with like the leaf to the root, in terms of goal setting. And then to hear them when they're in the application phase, like actually applying the stuff that they learned in class, it's just, I feel like I'm a proud mom, just like and it's the best because they're not doing it for me, like they're not doing it in a presentation. Like I overhear it happening like in the gym when they're working one-on-one with their clients. And so a lot of times it's in exercise psychology where they're just like, oh, I wish I would have known that, or that makes so much sense now. And then hearing them apply it is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way of doing it too, to figure out the why, then the mechanics of actually training somebody versus a lot of times the focus is just the mechanics and the hows, but to have the why first, yes, then learn the mechanics and then be able to blend those two together. Because otherwise then you're working backwards. You have the mechanics and then you're like, kind of what you were saying, then you have these aha moments and then now you have to start learning how to work backwards. And now you're asking why. Yeah. And, it's like to have those two together, I think is.
Absolutely. Are you familiar with Simon Sinek?
Yeah.
I use his whys. That's why I was asking, because you said the why. I use his why TED Talk in all of my classes. Like I make them watch it every single semester in every class because it's so important to have as like something that drives you personally as a fitness professional, but also having your clients kind of arrive at a why as well, because no one's asking them why, they're just asking them what. And so it's like trainers are asking the clients, what do you want? Okay, here's how I can give it to you, but no one's talking about why. And why is what drives everything, and I
agree.
and I even from like the professional standpoint, if you have your own gym or you have your own business, even as just a personal trainer working within a gym, like you have to, in order to be successful, you have to give your prospective clients your why. Tell them why that you're doing these things, and that shows your passion. It shows why you're doing it, and that is so rare in our industry because it's so easy to just fall into the what and the how that we keep forgetting why we do it. And then as a trainer, you get burnt out easily. If you don't have a why, what's going to drive you? And same with the clients, like they're going to get frustrated. They're going to have setbacks. They're going to be discouraged. Like they have to have that why in order to keep them going. So that's like that word triggered big. There's a lot that is in the why. And that's very important to me and important to have my students learn as well.
No, that's good. I think whenever we do like a consult, it's always like, it's always weight loss or something, but it's like, how is this going to help your life? Where does other than the scale, if you didn't look at the scale and you're at your target weight, how are you going to feel? how will you know like you made it? 'Cause
Or
it
not
usually
yet.
comes like, oh, I have more energy. I
Yes.
can keep up with my kids better. I'm running better. So
Yeah,
it's
90
kind of
day-
taking
90
it away
days.
from the number.
Yeah, 90 days and then what? What we have to do this the rest of our lives. So you have to have a strong why.
Right, absolutely.
Exercise is not.
Yeah. That's why I love getting the goals where it's like, I want to be fit enough and have enough energy to play with my grandkids. And it's just like, that's the kind of stuff that really shows. Like, I had a client who, she hated Turkish get-ups, hated them. And I was like, and I would joke around and be like, this is how you escape life alert. Like, this is how we get up off the ground, you know? And she was, an aha moment of hers as she was playing with her grandkids on the floor and was able to like get up and down and play with them. And she was like, that was just huge for me because my knees wouldn't allow it before. And it would take me so long to get up that the kids would get frustrated with me. And now I'm being able to do that. And it's like, those wins are so important. And that is it, circling it back to like that intrinsic motivation. Those are intrinsic motivators. And it's stuff that, a lot of my research with body image, we did research on appearance goals versus health goals. And health goals could also be like capability or like ability goals. And our research was feeling better about your body and body image wise, but it also kind of translated into further motivation to continue doing whatever they were doing. That was like part of the experiment that we did. And we found that people with health related goals were more motivated to continue exercising than those who had appearance goals. Because like you said, it's like, how do you know when you get there? You know, like you get on the scale and that's it, you know, and then like 6 hours later, you're heavier. It just is, and a lot of times with appearance, it's just not enough. It's never enough. Like you hit your goal. Now I want to lose 20 more pounds or I want to do this or gain more or whatever. It's never enough. So it's, people get discouraged so much quicker when it's an appearance goal. And when it's a health related goal, they are more motivated to keep going because they're like, well, what can I do next? You know, now I can get up and down from playing with my grandkids and maybe I can go like on a hike with them or I can do practice soccer with them in the backyard or whatever. And not only in our experiment did we find that aspect, we also found that having health related goals kind of acted like a buffer to the onslaught of like appearance related messaging that you get in everywhere with like gyms and like lose this, get shredded, do this, you know, that like people who have health related goals that are really ingrained in them, it almost like it didn't bother them or it didn't like change their mind. And that's like a huge thing too, because especially women having that much of an onslaught of appearance oriented messaging in terms of fitness and having that be related and almost like they can't have one without the other. Having those health related goals tends to kind of, they almost forget about that aspect for a little while, at least like while they're in the workout. They're not, and there's research too that we did that was really interesting with like one of the worst, I hesitate using the word worst, but it's whatever. One of the worst types of activities for women, especially with body image issues. Oh, sorry, I hit the, with body image issues is cardio on like a treadmill, because it's just so ingrained that the calories are right there in front of you. You're not concentrating on anything else. It's just like how hard this run is or how hard I have to push in order to burn this many calories. And it just becomes this like mental block. And so, but they found like resistance training and circuit training are more beneficial for body image because it's teaching them to be like inside of their body instead of looking outside, from the outside. So you're feeling things differently. You're like, you know, when you're doing a squat, like you're feeling the sensation in your legs. You're feeling what it feels like to do proper form versus improper form. And then even further in, they were finding that like total body movements are more beneficial for body image, because even resistance training where you're doing like the typical bodybuilding isolation tends to make them think about how they're shaping their body. And it's like it does a disservice mentally because it takes away from the whole point was just to make them stronger, and it becomes now it's an appearance activity. And it's like, how can this make me look better, as opposed to how can I get stronger? And so like total body movements and like metabolic conditioning and that kind of platform, or functional training, to put it simply, is been better because people start to develop a kind of like an appreciation for their body. And so they have less to say negatively about it because they're becoming more invested in how it moves and feeling better about how it moves. And so it's very interesting in terms of like, it makes sense again.
Yeah.
And like you explain it, you put it out there, but like actually seeing it play out is like a whole different thing.
That is cool. So in these circuit workouts at your facility, what does it like look like when someone walks in the door for a workout?
So we have a lot of different classes, like class themes, I guess. So like every day of the week has a different theme. And so some are like endurance based, some are power based. We have a class that is concentrated on like the major lifts. So this is kind of like our, I don't know, like our specialty, I guess, class, like format, where you have like the main lift, say it's a squat, and they're learning like a back squat. And then the rest of the movements in the circuit are all patterning for the back squat. So they do like a movement pattern in their, like as part of their workout, they do like a functional movement pattern for squatting, which we use the FMS for that. And then they'll do like a one side, like a unilateral movement that is targeting the same muscle groups as a squat would. Then they do a squat. Then they do, like they practice like just movement first, and then we increase every set in terms of weight. And then they do a core movement that is designed to activate the core in the same way that a squat would. And then they do a plyometric version of a squat. And so we do circuit through that, and they are, we have different, that one stays pretty much the same. The only time that we make it different is when we do like an EMOM. And so they're going through and like doing the squat every minute on the minute, and then they're doing the other stuff like during the rest of the time. And but otherwise we have like different curriculum. So every day of the week has its own format, and just the movements that we choose are different. And so like if it's endurance class, we do more like lighter weights or body weight or more cardiovascular training. And then if we do like power, we're doing lower reps, higher weight, and doing more explosive movements. That's when we'll do like our cleans and like kettlebells and stuff like that. And what else do we have? We have usually our classes they all go 2.5 hours back to back. So we have like our metabolic conditioning workout that we do first, and then right afterwards, if people want to go for a full hour, we have like just traditional resistance training. And so it kind of complements it, so they're not overtraining. And so those ones we're just doing like the single isolated accessory muscles with whatever, and they go with whatever class is going to and earlier. So
okay, nice. Yeah, so you do have the option for like a 60 minutes if someone wanted that versus just like the 30 minute.
Yep, we make sure that we're not overtraining them, because ideally, like with our method, you shouldn't be able to do more than 30 minutes of the metabolic conditioning. If you can, then you're not utilizing your time correctly, and you're not working to your full potential.
Sure.
So that's why we put like lower intensity, slower resistance training after that. So they want to work the full hour. They're not overtaxing their body. So,
Gotcha. Yeah, and you can control from day to day, like the stimulus that people get, or, you know, if Monday's very intense, Tuesday could be a little bit less intense.
Yes, absolutely. Sure. We never put like 2 power classes back to back because they need that full like 2 days to recuperate from it. So we make sure we split it up to be balanced. So if someone wanted to come every day, they're not going to get injured. They're not going to overtrain. But we do have some people that come every day and do the full hour every day. But then most of the time we have people doing like twice a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of 2 times a week. That seems to work for a lot of people's lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Two to four, I feel like, is a sweet spot for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't think I told you this. So we also specialize in kettlebell training. So I'm just in my brag moment. I'm a world champion kettlebell sport
Oh, cool.
athlete. I went in October. I went to Budapest to compete at the World Championships, and so we do. And I won.
Nice.
But we do kettlebells. Excuse me. We do kettlebells differently. So most kettlebell training is hard style bells, where like you'll see in CrossFit, and you don't see sport very much. But have you ever seen the big, like they're huge kettlebells that are all different colors?
Big boys,
Like this, more of like a square handle.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So those are the kettlebell sport kettlebells, and so they're all the same size, just different weights. So they're all universal.
Mhm.
And there's a whole sport that is like Olympic lifting, except with kettlebells. And so like a lot of the different lifts that you'll find in Olympic lifting, like Olympic weightlifting, like snatch, you will have, I should say powerlifting, but either way, snatch, clean and jerk, all of that is with kettlebells. And so it's actually the sport's being considered for the Olympics, and so hopefully we get through to the Olympics. But yeah, that's something that we also do. Is I think we're, aside from a gym in Chicago, we're the only ones that do kettlebell sport, and it's a really interesting to watch. Like, you should definitely, if you haven't seen kettlebell sport movements, it's really interesting to compare like hard style to kettlebell sport. And of course there's like a rivalry between the two, but like even just watching the mechanics, like treat yourself, watch the mechanics in slow motion of like a kettlebell sport snatch versus a hard style snatch. They are just completely different because for kettlebell sport you have to do your lift for 10 minutes straight. So like that's the goal. And so you have to be energy efficient and in order to last that long. So, and then there's in kettlebell sport, there's some events that last like a half hour. And so you have to do that same lift for 30 minutes straight. And so it's like really taxing, but like just you can see why this works for that amount of time and why, how it compares to like the hard style bells. It's really interesting.
Is the weight based on is there like weight categories in terms of how much you're lifting?
So for women and men, it's separate, but it doesn't matter. Like your body weight doesn't really dictate how much you should be lifting in order to like meet a ranking. It's how many reps that you achieve with a specific weight. So like someone who's heavier would have to hit more reps in order to level up, because you can level up in like your rankings. It's kind of like martial arts. So you get a new belt. It's like you get a new ranking. And so it's all based on reps. But like there's, for actual competition, amateur for women is, amateur for women is 16 kilograms, so like 35 pounds. And then for amateur for men is a 24 kilograms, about 50 pounds. And then professional level for women is the 24 kilogram, and professional for men is a 32 kilogram. And so like, but you can compete at the lower levels. Like there's an 8 kilogram, which is like beginners will start there. And you have to rank up to move up, if that makes sense, like in the actual competitions. Okay. So it's really interesting.
So what was your event when you went to Budapest?
I did a single arm event called long cycle, but it is essentially a clean and jerk.
Okay.
So I did it with the 16 kilograms. So I'm still amateur.
So are you going from the floor to your shoulder overhead, or
you swing? So and that's part of the rules. Like the bell cannot touch the floor at any time during your set. If you do, your set's over or you get disqualified. So you have to keep moving the whole time. You can't rest. The only time you can rest is on your body. Yeah. Okay. And so that's interesting too. Like if you look at the in the fitness industry world, like kettlebell sport athletes get dinged for this all the time because people don't understand. But like if you look at someone's form when they're in the rack position, it looks like they're going to blow their back out. And just because they're leaning backwards
extended,
and their
yeah.
hips are forward and the bells are resting on their hips, which is like, that's the rest position. Like you should be able to just like relax in that position. But it looks like you're arching your back really bad and that you're going to like break your back. But you, with the long cycle, you are swinging, cleaning, jerking, and then going down, swinging, cleaning, jerking, just back and forth like that. And you can't touch, as soon as you touch the ground, you're done.
But you get to alternate arms?
You have to do, you only get one switch if you're doing, so usually you do 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Jeez.
But like the half-hour events, you can switch anytime you want. Yeah, I got invited to do one of those in Berlin, in Belgium, in the fall. But the only events are going to be the half-hour events, and I'm like, no, I'm not ready for that. I don't think I can sustain that. But
it's a full class of
kettlebell
of
one
swing.
movement. Just one movement.
It's a long time to swing kettlebell.
Mm-hmm.
Is that single arm also? 30 minutes?
They have or you can do double. Yeah.
Wow.
So like in professional level and in most of the organizations, only in some organization is the one arm considered an event. Most of the organizations, though, 2-arm long cycle, which is the clean and jerk, is an event, or like you can do 2-arm jerk, or just snatch, but snatch is just 1 arm for everybody.
Gotcha. So for some perspective, what are people getting for this 10 minutes?
Yeah, so my record was, and I set a record with this weight, or these reps, and for snatch, I did 253 reps. And so in order to
25 a minute.
Yeah. In order to win in snatch, you want to be getting like 200 or more reps in your 10 minutes. For 2-arm long cycle, you want to be getting like 70 to 80 reps in your 10 minutes. And then with the 1-arm clean and jerk, let's see, I won and I got 125 reps. And so like anywhere higher than like 110, you're going to win with. For the half-hour ones, the most I've seen is like 730 reps. Yeah.
That's a lot of reps.
Yeah, so roughly like 20 a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah, but as you see, it's like you can severely overtrain if you're not doing it right, And so that's why the biomechanics of kettlebell sport are so interesting, because it's so energy efficient that you're not overtraining and you're relying. That's the biggest thing that we get is you're relying too much on momentum. It's like, yeah, that's the point, because how would you be able to go 10 minutes doing the same movement if you were just muscling it the whole time? You can't. You have to go based on, like, we call it skeletal stacking. So you're not using your muscles to hold the weight up. You're letting it rest on your hips so you can relax everything else. And then momentum. And so it's like, it's more strategic than anything.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
How did you get into kettlebells originally?
I loved like hardstyle bells. I think they were, I just loved how they were just different and how they just give you a way different workout than dumbbells or barbells or anything. And so one of my trainers was like, you should compete in kettlebells, because the CrossFit games were on and there's like that event, there's the kettlebell events. And I was like, I would love to. Like, I don't want to do CrossFit. Like, I don't want to do CrossFit games in order to compete in kettlebells. So if there's something, and so I did some research, and all of it, like, I found this whole, like, uncovered this whole sport and this whole, like, culture of it. And so I just dove head first, and I found a coach that was an interesting story. He and I connected over Instagram. I told you I have 2 kids. I have 2 daughters, and one of them is like super interested in kettlebells. And I saw on Facebook there was like these little mini versions of the like competition bells, and I was like, that's adorable. Like, I want one. And then so I figured out that this one guy makes them in Las Vegas. And so I bought one, and then he messaged me on Instagram, was like, hey, can I send you like a full set, and like you can like no charge, like you can just like post about it and like have your kids like work with them. And so he did. And then I had no idea what I was doing in kettlebell sports. I asked him questions and stuff, and turns out he was on the board of like an organization, one of the organizations that I lift with, and he's like, I'll coach you, you know, like send me videos. And then he helped me a lot too. And so it just like it's a really great environment. Like people are very supportive of each other in the sport, and it just kind of like I started just ramping it up from there. But like with his help, I was able to within a year go to the World Championships. So nice. I started training. It's been a year. It was a year in February of this year.
But you had like a pretty good base of fitness prior to starting.
Yes, yeah. I had to learn the mechanics, so it was a really cool journey. But yeah,
it is cool. It's fun. The first time you have somebody like throw a medicine ball, swing a kettlebell, or do like Olympic lifting, and they get to use momentum and power. It's like,
yes,
it's like whoa, because traditional weight training is
it's super slow,
right?
And like I love that too. Like we were talking about aha moments when like you put like a big giant kettlebell in front of someone, they're just like, I can't lift that. And then you teach them how to use their body with momentum. It's like, it just becomes like, holy crap. Like how did I just do that? And like same with like barbells, like learning that they can use momentum and use their body in a different way.
A gym becomes like a whole new world of opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
And then going back to like what I was saying earlier about competency, they do stuff like that, and they're experiencing that moment of, oh my God, my body can do this. That becomes their relationship with their body starts changing, and it's less exercising is less about changing their body and more of like, what can I do, you know? And like I want to do this. I want to do a pull up next. I want to deadlift this much, and it just becomes this like jungle gym of like a playground, and how many things can I do? And that is like optimal intrinsic motivation. Is just like people want to do the activity for the sake of the activity because it's fun to see like what they can do.
Yeah, that's cool. Definitely, like the more you can do, I think it makes exercise interesting. If you're not like limited to specific exercises, it just opens up everything inside the gym and outside the gym.
Yes, that's huge. Is when I find too with clients and students and everyone, like when they start to see their gains, if you will, like outside of the gym, it becomes a whole new game. Like it's just they're so thrilled where like something as simple as I was able to pick up the bags of salt and just put it into my car and not need help, you know, or I was thinking about you the other day, like you make me do all these kettlebell farmer carries, but I was able to bring in my groceries just one trip, you know, like holding it. And so that's why I love functional training so much, is that you can see the benefit, you can see it playing into everyday life. And then people, that brings into, like we were talking about autonomy, they feel like they have a role in their workouts. And it's one of the biggest things that I learned in my schooling about autonomy is that people need a reason why they're doing it. Like people want to have some kind of control, and that's where like the autonomy comes in. But even as much as giving them a reason why they're doing something, like not just do as I say because I said do it, you know, it's more of like do this and then you're going to experience this. People tend to do better because it makes sense to them. Like they're not just there. Some people just want to be there, tell me what to do, I'm not going to ask questions. But even those people, you give them little bits of like, hey, this is going to help you with this. And then and that's enough to make them be like, oh, you know, that's great. Like I'll keep doing this then, you know?
For the young trainer too, you know, that's important to have more tools in your toolbox and be able to, because ultimately, like if you're doing this as a living, as a career, you need to be able to work with lots of types of clients and appeal to them in different ways. So having different tools in your toolbox, like we had talked about, you know, people that are interested in bodybuilding as a trainer and, you know, they have nice biceps, but then biceps only appeals to a certain percentage of the population or, you know.
Yeah, especially especially with women. There's some women, it's changing now, that are like, I don't want to get too big, you know, like I don't want to get bulky. And it's just like, you have to like go into like, it doesn't work like that, you know? And, but like there are some people that just want to train like an athlete, or they don't want to do the bodybuilding. And so, like we talked about, it's important for upcoming fitness professionals to have experience with all types of individuals, like training all different types of individuals, because you never know who you're going to come across, and sometimes like that why, like this is why I have my students watch the TED Talk over and over again, is because like their why changes. Like right. There's some that are like, I just want to work with athletes. I've had this happen before. I just want to work with elite athletes. That's it. I don't want to work general population. And then as they go and the more experience that they get, they're like, oh my gosh, I worked with someone with the Special Olympics, special needs. And it was amazing because they did a push-up and they were just thrilled with it, and it's like they go from that to that, and then their why just kind of like changes. And like for me, I know from experience, like when I started my fitness career, I worked at a Gold's Gym. I wanted to do bodybuilding. I wanted to do all of that, like a figure competition. And I wanted other people to do it too. And and then I went and I interned at the Cooper Aerobic Center, and most of what they do is with general pop or
health.
Yes, all health oriented.
Fitness. Yeah,
yes,
right.
Exactly. And when I finished my internship, or even like halfway through my internship, I was like, what am I doing? Like I was so driven by appearance goals for myself, for clients and everything. And then I worked with they like put me in, not in charge, but like I was like the main intern for a program for individuals with Parkinson's. And like in the beginning, I was just like, oh God, this is so boring. Like I want to be able to do this. And like we're dribbling basketballs back and forth. And then I started learning and seeing more of these people just gaining control back and of like just their body, because they felt
literally
gaining control back of their body. And I remember, I'll never forget this one guy he was able to put his own pants on, and he was so thrilled by that, because he's like, my wife had to do that for me. Like I felt like I lost my dignity. I felt like all of this, and now I can do that. And I was just like, oh my God, like there is a whole different world to this fitness thing than just like looking good on a stage and, starving yourself to do that. It just was like so eye-opening. And so even from experience, the why changes, and knowing that is important for upcoming professionals. Like, don't just be hell-bent on one thing, like right. Make yourself more, it makes you more marketable too. Like make yourself well-rounded, and you'll learn like to develop a better appreciation for the industry that you're in, instead of just getting sucked into one group or population.
Appreciation's a good word.
Yeah.
And then, either having a team of people that maybe have different strengths. So then if there is a client that has, there should at least be some kind of solution to, and people evolve. Like you said, you started with one goal and it evolved, I think a lot of trainers are like that too.
Yes.
And then, you see your product offering kind of evolve along with that. We were very similar. And
so being the internship coordinator, are you seeking out places where people could get like different experience, like vastly different experiences in the fitness profession?
Yes, I'm really partial to like places like you guys are privately owned, and I just have found that the students get more of an enriched experience than going to like a box gym, because it's very like corporate. There's a lot of like hurdles that you have to jump through, and the interns don't get to do very much because of all of that. And one, I'm big on like support small businesses. Like that is number one, and the quality is just so much better in those types of fitness facilities. But I look for, that's kind of like what I narrow my pool down to, is that, and then I try to look for different types of experiences and different types of gyms, and because every gym has their niche. I'm very adamant about like students understanding that it's like, and just when I'm meeting different people for the internship sites, that if like all these small businesses kind of like came together and not seeing each other as like competition, it's like that's how we survive, you know. That's how we build this niche market. Wouldn't even say a niche market, but like the small business aspect of fitness where people just get a better experience in general instead of going to like a box gym where they're just like an ID number, you know, and people only know their name by like looking at the, oh, hi, you know, hi, Will, like nice to see you again, which is like, you haven't seen me before, but thanks. But like getting that type of gym on the roster is very important because the students are able to learn more. The advisors or the owners or whoever's in charge is a little bit are way more forthcoming about like experience and let them get their hands dirty, and it just is overall better than just trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You know, it just is like, I feel that my students are being stifled when they're going to different places that don't let them do anything. So it's important to interact with like people like you guys that have the same, like a similar perspective and like how the fitness industry should be run. But I do like to, I like to mix it up and try to find different niche gyms and things like that. But to an extent, you know, like it still needs to be like they get the well-rounded experience, you know, because like a yoga studio isn't really on my like on the list of places just because that's all they do. And like we don't really go into teaching how to teach yoga. It's more of like, so coaching based gyms, it could be like athletic style, it could be general pop, it could be just a personal training gym, like those types of things. But overall it's mostly individual, privately owned, as opposed to like the big box gyms.
Do you find that students have more success like as a career in a smaller type of gym versus going to a big corporate one?
Yes. Overall, I mean, even superficially, like the individual privately owned, they tend to pay more. So it just is because it's, I guess you can like micro gym or boutique gym or however you want to put it, but like they tend to charge more for their members than like a $10 a month, you know? And so that itself, like they end up making more money that way. And then they have better success as well because like their superiors or their bosses or whoever is working with them has like an actual personal investment in them, as opposed to like, I can just replace you with somebody else. And so in their career, they become more well-rounded and their experience is better. They enjoy work more. They feel seen. They feel supported. And then they're also financially making more too. It just tends to be that way. But yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. I've had the opportunity to mentor several people throughout the years without a real curriculum to do it. So it's just been a lot of energy intensive, trying to share my experience, what I know, and then utilize trainers' strengths and, you know, like help them get to where they need to be. But I think it's what you're doing is a great service because it's matching, like exercise science is like a massively growing field, and there's a major need for health exercise, and you're just pairing and trying to make that experience as positive and you know, long term. Yeah, right. And it's a win for the trainer, it's a win for the client. And then too, when a trainer can make like a nice career out of it, then that ultimately is, you know, what's going to keep them in the game longer and helping more people. And
that's a whole other thing too, is like our industry is changing, which is good, but we tend to lose really good trainers to other jobs just because it, you know, the like fitness doesn't pay the bills, you know. And so it's like that's another thing that's important to me, is that my students are finding places that they can actually make a decent living instead of making, you know, like $12 an hour for like personal training at like it's huge. And so they need to be compensated properly in order to stay in the field. And so there's in my classes, like I go over with my students, like, and I show them like this is based on like the economy and everything. We go over like pricing and what they should be getting paid and all of that. And it's like, this is important to know. Like you especially students who go through and have like a degree in it. You know, it's not just someone who went and got like a weekend certification,
yeah.
you know, like they actually put money and time into this. So they should find these places that are compensating them properly. And it just like overall, like the individual private owned places are doing that. And then my students and just I think fitness professionals in general are staying in the industry longer because they're able to survive on it. And like you said, people are starting to value their health a lot more and their wellness. And so, and then we also saw like a surge in private owned facilities during and after COVID, just because people were too scared to go to the gyms, like the box gyms, because there's just like so many germs and so many people. And then at the same time, they're like seeking and like needing interaction with people because like we were quarantined. And so it's like, so they want the places that give them more attention, and they feel like that we're back to that relatedness, that they feel a part of something. So, I mean, in general, I feel like overall, like I would just constantly be pushing these small businesses because like they are the ones that deserve to continue, and like the students just have a better experience with it too. But,
yeah. So what would you say is like like very high traits for like a successful trainer?
Empathy.
Yeah.
That, I mean, if anything is empathy. And I think we talked about this, but like having a personality that you can communicate with people. And so it's like you can be the smartest person in the world. You can have every textbook memorized and know all of the different ways of training and how to train, like the how, like we're circling back, but if you can't understand how people work, their why, and really want to care for them and want them to succeed, like you're not going to be a successful trainer. So to get like specific, like you have to have charisma, you have to be relatable, you have to be approachable, you have to have that empathy, and of course you have to have knowledge, but like knowledge is something you can teach people. You can't teach people empathy. You can't teach them relatedness. Like they have in the industry, like you either have it or you don't. Like there's things that are coachable, and that's important for business owners, or like for professors who teach upcoming students, that they're going to be more successful if they develop connection with clientele. So it's important to have like that with hands-on experience in their career, in their upbringing in the industry, that like a weekend certification just can't provide. Like the weekend certification is good. It serves its purpose because it's encouraging people to be more knowledgeable instead of being like, hey, I look good, like let me train you. Like there's like that, like I'm a bodybuilder, I can train you, like to look like me. And so it's still good. It serves its purpose. But in general, like you have to be a people person, and you have to enjoy working with people and be able to put up with the headaches that they give you from time to time, but like you still care about the person in general. Like if you don't, then you're in the wrong industry.
So as a teacher, do you ever have to have that uncomfortable talk with a student, like you are so selfish, or like kind of like this, maybe your personality doesn't kind of fit with this field, or
yes,
does that ever happen?
Not more so in like the over cocky, like I've talked about putting people in their place often. And like you can ask my students, like I approach it in a way where it's like they'll call me mom, like I'm their mom, and mom has like the tough talk, and it's like in a way that it's not condescending, it's more of like you can't say that to somebody, or like my recent students, I had to have like a mom talk with them before we started like the working with our mock clients, and where it's like, hey, listen, like I've been laid back, I've been cool about stuff, but like this is where I don't budge. Like if I hear any type of like degrading terminology or something that goes against what you've learned, like I'm pulling you. And I've talked to you about like the internship too. Like if I hear any word of like that you've done something disrespectful or that you're just not meshing, or we're going to have a serious talk. And so if I haven't had it's more of like bringing them down a notch as opposed to like someone who's really dull and can't have a conversation. I haven't had to have that conversation yet. And I think that as long as you have the why of taking care of people and of helping people with health and wellness, like you have that's the right thing to have. And there is, if you're like a more reserved person, like there's people that flock to different people.
Sure.
Right.
You know, like
there's an ass for every saddle.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
Exactly. And like I consider myself a hype person, so I'm very like animated, but like we have members or I have clients who are just like that's too much for me, you know, and so they do better with someone who's a little bit more reserved, you know, and so you don't have to be like a hype person in order to do well in this. You just have to be empathetic and you have to care for people, and that's really what it boils down to.
I think each person finds their style too. Like if you
Yes.
are more reserved, like maybe find ways to communicate,
Yes.
you know, through text or, you know, blogs, like that kind of
Yes.
stuff. And yeah, you will see there's people that are very extroverted, introverted, like all that stuff plays into,
Yes.
you know, some people do well with the group training. They like being on the stage and the energy of the moment.
Yep.
Some people do really well one-on-one. It just kind of depends. So
Yeah.
if anybody struggles, like you can definitely find, but through repetition,
Right.
you know, try a lot
Practice
of different stuff. We kind of talked about that earlier, is like you'll find your way eventually if you have that strong why and, you know, sample
Yes.
and work hard and be willing to change where you're weak and
Yeah.
play to your strengths.
Are there any preconceived notions your students have about owning a gym? Like, oh, it's going to be awesome. And you kind of have to
Yes.
shed the reality to it.
Yes. And those are the ones I like to put with people that own their own businesses, because and this goes with clients too. I think that people grossly misunderstand what a gym owner goes through when they own a gym. They just think like, oh, you just get to walk around a gym and like work out all day and you're just racking in the memberships, and they don't understand like the amount of grind that it takes to own a gym, and it's not easy. And so the students that I have that are like, I don't want to squash their dreams, you know, if they want to be an entrepreneur, absolutely. But there's that's why I asked you to come guest speak in my class is to have these guest speakers to go like, I have my own gym and this is the stuff that went well, this is the stuff that sucked, and like to be prepared for that. And so I give them the reality talk, because that's beneficial, because I, you know, am partial owner too, so I understand the grind that is necessary to own a gym. But like having other people hear it too, or hearing from other people, is important as well, because it shows like it's not all glamour and glitz. It's hard work, and some days are worse than others. Some days are great and thriving, and there's other days where you're just scraping by. And that is, we talk a lot about business in some of the classes that I teach, and that's part of it. It's just like, you can't just decide you're going to open your gym and just do it. You have to do research. You have to do figure out what you need to survive. You know, you have to, like most people have to take out a loan in order to open it up, and then like you have to worry about paying that loan back. And it's not just like, a lot of people are like, well, I have all these like followers on social media, like I'll just open up, and it's like, even if you have like 1 million friends that are like, oh yeah, do it, even like your friends aren't necessarily going to come like work out at your gym. Like it just is, you can't expect that. So yeah, we've had a lot of talks about just like the real world experience in owning a gym, and how hard it really is. But I try not to squash their dreams.
Is there any like discussion about kind of online coaching or online training as like a business option?
There's a lot of, I mean, that is obviously an upcoming field. Like it's becoming very, very common. But again, I tell them, like, just because you have a lot of Instagram followers doesn't mean you're going to have a successful coaching business. And so it's like, it's important to if you're wanting to do that, you have to know how to market yourself, and you have to do it well, and you have to, that's hard enough, is just like marketing and staying relevant on social media, and even being able to know the differences between like posting a trailer video versus like a full instructional video, and where it belongs, you know, like is a full instructional video belong on Instagram, or is it, or excuse me, or TikTok, or is it like a trailer that's on TikTok? And it's just knowing all the different things, and how you, like, if you're going to be online and your coaching business is going to be online, then you have to be all invested online. And so that's hard to do, especially if you're also coaching, you know, because then you have to do all the marketing and the sales and all of that virtually, but then you also have to write the programming and coach the people too. And so but they're like, oh, I didn't think of that. You know, I thought it'd just be like, oh, I have all these followers, I just write workouts and then they buy them. And some people are lucky enough to have that type of following, but it's just not realistic.
Yeah. I feel like online might be even more of a grind than in person.
It's different.
It's a whole different grind.
It's a different animal.
Yeah.
To try to impress somebody enough to want your product, you have to portray it visually. There's, you know, the videography aspect of it, the script aspect of it, you know, it's just, that's a whole nother.
I would agree. I think it would be almost harder to do, because it's so much easier. Someone comes in and they see your personality, and then your facility, and they see your passion, and it's so much harder to convey that virtually. And like when they can just like swipe, and then there's the next person right underneath your grid, or right underneath your post that is posting something that looks cool too. You know, it's like, how do they choose?
And do you want to spend a bulk of your time trying to just attract people to ultimately filter it down to maybe 10% of the attracted people purchase your product? You know, it's like, it's a different, again, your why.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Is this what you want to do? But it's not for everybody. So.
Yeah. And I try to tell them too, it's like, it's not, especially if you have like your own, like gym, your own brick and mortar, like it's not about the amount of followers that you have, because are all those followers turning into clientele? You know what I mean? Like you can have 13,000 followers, but like how many of those are actually paying you? You know, like how it doesn't mean like if you have more followers that you are like a higher quality business. It just is, you're good at drawing people in to look at what you're doing, but like the conversion rate is what's important, you know? Unfortunately though, like our industry and just like society in general looks at the amount of followers, and that's like, if you have more followers, then you're more legitimate. But it just like, if you point it out that way, or it's like, if you're a gym owner, like, or I'm telling them too, like if you're owning your own business, like it's important to market yourself, but like if you're only spending your time on that and not actually bringing clients in and converting prospects into clients, then you're wasting your time essentially.
So full circle, because this ties back into things that you were saying, is we talk a lot about like value proposition and empathy, like you said. You can be whatever you think you are as a trainer, but if it doesn't add value into someone's life, so a lot of times people might make an impulse purchase because, you know, someone looks good in a bathing suit or has big biceps, and they'll make that one-time purchase for $19 a month, but then they try that program and they see that it's just a whitewash cookie cutter, and they do it for 4 weeks, and that's $19 down the drain, and then they're done with it. So like, who did that ultimately benefit? The online trainer that took the time to impress somebody got the $20 that they were looking for.
And that's so true. Like I try to tell my students that too, where it's like, don't fall into the trap of just like buying all these programs online, because it's like you're gonna find like that booty program with like the whatever, like how to get a better booty, and it's just like do squats and deadlifts, and it's like, great, I'm glad I spent $70 on someone telling me that squats and deadlifts help me with my glutes, you know. And it's just like that cookie cutter, and people, but like you said though, sometimes people have to make that mistake and learn, and then they are so much more appreciative of the individualized training when they actually come into like a brick and mortar, or like work with an online coach that's actually like does Zoom calls with them or whatever. And like, exactly. It's not just buy my program.
You got to kiss a lot of frogs before you
that's exactly right. Exactly right. I love it. It's a good analogy.
Well, I think we've done an hour.
Nice. Perfect.
Hour 10.
Nice. I like it. See, it's good.
Yeah.
All good stuff too.
Yes.
All
Meat
I
and
love when it
potatoes of
like
it.
yeah, I love when it circles back. You know, it always just like comes back into like what you're talking about earlier, and it just circles back and really drives the points home.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
me. I'm
cool.
excited.
That's good.